If you were to make it to heaven, what's the first thing you'd want God to say? This is Corey, and this is the O The Anthem podcast.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to episode 308 of the O The Anthem podcast, coming to you from the hashtag OTA LA studios, high above the 110 freeway in downtown Los Angeles, California. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, thanks indeed. There is so much to get into this week.
I know, but you know what I said? We talked about it in the pre-show, and I think it's a good idea. Let's start at the end of the show. Usually we wait till the end to take a trip on down to the Baltimore Corner.
Where you get the straight dope?
Absolutely. But so much good Baltimore news. I don't want to leave it to the end.
Yeah.
We have to get it out there. Good Baltimore news.
It needs to be gotten out there, that's
Yes,
for sure.
yes.
That much is clear.
Some people got shot. Pretty violent. Basically the third world. You might be safer in Baghdad than you are in Baltimore. But that's not even what we're talking about. Criminal justice system works?
I thought you were going to go with run amok, and then I didn't even think that really fit properly.
Yes. Yeah.
So we had two different kind of sentences handed out this week. Earlier on, we had Catherine Pugh sentenced to 3 years in jail plus 3 years of probation for all the corruption that went on with the Healthy Holly book scandal and everything like that. And then just today, we had the sentencing in the Keith Davis Jr. trial, the fourth time that he's been tried for the same crime. And he was sentenced to 50 years on second-degree murder.
No, wait. You must have those confused. A corruption trial in which someone bogarted the campaign, got elected mayor, and had $1 billion budget. That's the 50-year sentence. And the guy who is causally connected to a murder that he probably didn't commit, that guy got 3 years, right?
No. And so I guess let's start with Pugh.
Yeah.
By
the way, speaking of starting with Pugh, it smells a little bit
Be
like we
you.
moved our studio close. Wait, what is it they call it in Dundalk? Is it the shit bowl? With Edgewood and Dundalk
The
play?
acorns?
Yeah.
That's what I call them.
I feel like we're about to play that game in the studio right now.
The
So thanks for that. Oh, the mayor's name is just so fortunate, unfortunate, however you want to look at it.
So Catherine Pugh was obviously caught up in getting zero bid contracts and basically selling her book for way more than it was worth to donors, more or less. I mean, like between the University of Maryland medical system, where she was on the board, and they were all basically just using the university to get money from them. Like all the different board members were doing some sort of scheme. And then being able to take that money and do things that she felt she needed to do in order to win an election. Like she wasn't doing well in fundraising, so all of a sudden there was a lot of mysterious donors who donated a lot of money to her campaign.
Right.
Something that people at the time thought was weird, how like all this money came in all of a sudden.
And people thought it was weird and then dropped out of the race, leaving her by herself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, like as soon as it seemed like she was the she sort of came into the Joe Biden role, if you will.
Yeah.
Where like all of a sudden she looked like she was the presumptive favorite, even though she wasn't doing that well early on, and everyone else basically got out of her way.
Yeah.
Or didn't get the same sort of attention they would have if she wasn't in the race.
Yep.
And in addition to that, she bought a house that she felt was more befitting of somebody who was going to be mayor. It's...
Well, listen, all Baltimore mayors need a place where they can run away and hide and not see the media. I think we came to learn that during the Stephanie Rawlings Blake era. So,
well, she the thing that Catherine Pugh, I feel like, just didn't understand was how wrong what she did was based off of the situation that we were in. It'd be like if, like I befriended you because your father had just got murdered. And then, I got real close and you started inviting me over after school every day. And then I murdered your mother.
Oh,
like,
well,
it's just like, why am I compounding the stress and awfulness that you have to go through with more awfulness?
However, kind of a gift, because now you've raised the odds that I'll
now
become
you become
Batman. Yeah. So, I mean, look at that. That's an origin story we can all get behind.
Baltimore is Batman, and go.
Let's see, it's dark. You get beat up if you meet it in an alley. Crime is rampant. I mean, it's sounding pretty accurate. You know, they always say that New York is Gotham City.
Yeah.
But maybe it's Baltimore that's turning into Gotham City. But I guess we could ask.
Well, we definitely need some hero to come out and save us in this moment.
I was going to say, I'm going to give a quick shout out to Roxy.
There's no way, by the way, that the Baltimore Police Department would allow a Batman-like figure to go out there and do their job.
Oh, they would shoot him. They would absolutely shoot him.
Batman dead tonight.
Yes, yeah.
Baltimore police found a gun near the body.
Wait, he famously doesn't carry a gun. I must have tonight. I don't know. I saw a black figure with what looked like a weapon. There's only one thing we can do there. Just shoot.
He shouldn't wear all black and make me assume things about him. What are you talking about, officer? I mean...
Wait. It's a white guy? He was all black around the eyes. I don't understand. It's very confusing. I'm very confused.
I couldn't really tell because the voice was like this.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of a voice for all races.
It's a deep voice, and he came at me like an animal. I don't know what to tell you. Oh, I see. Okay. But yeah,
like a bat almost.
So the city didn't get. And here's the thing. Let me ask you.
Yeah.
Would you forgive her trespasses if murders were down over the first year of her mayorship?
No.
And, the city was just generally better.
No. I mean,
what if things had improved by 50% under her first year of leadership, and then it came out that she had corrupt? She was corrupt.
My one line, and I think famously of musicians, this is where I've sort of said I don't care how crazy you are if I like the music.
Yeah.
As long as you don't actively hurt somebody. I remember Prince got in trouble because he repainted somebody's house that he was renting.
Yeah.
And it cost $700,000 to repaint the house or something.
Yeah, but he just paid and repainted it.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, nobody was really hurt. It was just that he had to spend a lot of money to repaint a house.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of zany weirdness that's okay with me.
He brought a llama into the music studio.
Now, when you're talking about Michael Jackson and kids and stuff like that, then now we're going into you've hurt somebody, so I can't condone your weirdness anymore. You've crossed a Rubicon here.
But I'm saying, what if no one got hurt? What if the city was better at the end of her first year, and then the corruption came out?
I still can't because there's no way to the violation is of the trust.
Okay.
The corruption is a violation of trust. And
what about the hero? She's the hero we need, not the one we deserve.
No.
A take your medicine mayor.
No. A take your medicine mayor was a unfallible saint who was going to do all the things that nobody else wanted to do in order to make the city better, and knew that they might only get one term because they were going to do all the things that nobody wanted them to do. And just get it out of the way, and then the next person would be able to run free.
But wait, did we want her to, cheat her way into the mayorship? Did we want her to not sell a book called Healthy Holly that actually apparently isn't very good? She did all the things we didn't want her to do. She is, in fact, the mayor that you're describing. I am so glad that Corey is coming out as so pro Catherine Pugh on this episode.
She didn't though. There was no the crime went down all of a sudden when Catherine Pugh went into.
Oh no, it went up. It went
and
up.
In fact, it was. You could argue that she was asleep at the wheel more than others had been. I mean, so I've been doing a lot of Baltimore related research recently, and specifically with the Gun Trace Task Force and stuff. And I find that the amount of incidents that sort of happened right around when Catherine Pugh was the preordained candidate for mayor up until when she left is just too hard to deal with, you know? Because in Baltimore, when you win the Democratic primary in April,
you're
basically the mayor.
Yeah.
You're not entitled the mayor, but if you say something and you said I think we're going to shift focus to schools as a citywide effort, then the current mayor would feel the pressure to have to do what the new mayor was going to push. Stephanie Rawlings Blake couldn't release a budget fuck the schools.
I mean, she did. She did several years in a row, but Well,
those police department need overtime, so.
Yeah, and what is it? Overnight shipping on 80 or $300,000 worth of equipment. Like shipping was $84,000 to confront a bunch of kids at a school. Yeah.
Anywho, I think that to me, what is really weighing on me is what is an appropriate punishment for massive corruption.
Right.
I mean, like, Agnew didn't get much.
He's white.
Well, I know, but I'm saying, like, you know, I feel like
he was Greek.
when you're
in a time
connected, when you're connected to the party in some sort of way, whether or not it be Republican or Democrat, then I feel like there's leniency that's given to you because, like, it's why would we toe tag Catherine Pugh when the next person who comes along might get it worse? You know?
You mean when Stephanie Rawlings Blake is head of the Council of Mayors and now working for presidential candidate Mike Bloomberg? Why would we toe tag somebody who did things just as awful as her?
I don't know.
Thanks, Baltimore.
I'm so like angry. I was angry the other day when the sentence was coming out, just because I feel like she hasn't learned a goddamn thing. She released a video that they played in court that was basically like the type of thing you would see at, like, if you went to a political fundraiser dinner. Say you went to Pete's big event tonight, right?
Well,
they might have some video that plays before talking about how great of a president Pete would be.
Is it an in memoriam?
And it would be like here's the Pete Buttigieg story.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
He was born sometime in the 80s, like hard scrabble life, military, gay, mayor, now presidential candidate.
Well,
and it
actually,
would like
a
do
military
the
mayor.
documentary style thing about like how he's like, you know, like all him talking to camera being like, that's when I knew I had to stand up for America, that sort of thing. The Catherine Pugh's legal team put together a video much like that, where 40 seconds at the beginning was, I'm very sorry to the people of Baltimore and the people I hurt, blah, 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 blah. Fade to black, cut back in. She was born one of 6 children in Baltimore. And it just like continues on with just like, and then she fought for the people of Baltimore during the riots and Freddie Gray and blah, blah, blah. And it's like her and Elijah Cummings like always holding hands and like doing like holding hands together and stuff like that and celebratory victory. Like, we're going to show some pictures of Elijah Cummings to make you think she's not such a bad person.
I mean, he's a pretty terrible person too.
But I mean, like, it was like, it was so, when I saw that, that was the day before the sentencing happened. I said, whatever. I wish the judge could just watch that and just be like, I'm sentencing for more for that alone. Like, you so clearly didn't learn a lesson. You're trying to like clean up the mess with this video, and you're gonna hold a press conference after your sentence, going like, "This is the last you heard of Catherine Pugh." By the way, good news: she can't run for mayor again or any other elected office because she's a convicted felon now. So we got that going for us. We don't have to worry about our Sheila Dixon on us for the rest of our lives. Ay, Jesus Christ.
Well, I mean, maybe the prosecutors have finally learned their lesson, and if you're convicted of anything in Baltimore, we're gonna make you plead to a year and a day just so you can't run for mayor again.
The fact that Sheila is just going to run for the rest of our lives is just irritating to me.
Well, let's hope the rest of her life. I mean, she is in her 50s, right? So
she's gonna be like Castro. She'll live forever.
well, they're both evil. They both smoke a lot of cigars. Yeah.
Both spend a lot of time conveniently just outside of Washington.
Yeah.
Back in the old days of Castro, I guess.
It put it in stark relief when today, a guy who, as Corey said in the opening, 4 times they tried to convict him. Twice they did. Both were overturned by the State Court of Special Appeals. They got him again this last time, and he went up for sentencing. And apparently the courtroom was packed with supporters who were just like, why are we even doing this anymore?
Yeah.
But the judge, in his infinite wisdom, gave him 50 years, which is essentially, to a guy who's been shot in the face by the BPD, a life sentence. He's not. I mean,
he needed to get out of jail pretty soon to like really handle some serious medical issues that he's going on, because honestly, I firmly believe this. I think the Baltimore Police Department would hoped he would have died at some point by now.
Oh, they were hoping that all along.
As much as none of them would be able to ever admit that sort of thing out loud, their lives would have been so much easier if Keith Davis was just gone.
Yeah, he was supposed to die the day of. That's the night. Why are you living so long, man?
Because then they could just not have to worry about this coming up every so often. And the worst part is that every step along the way with the trial, and it was never like, I feel like during the first couple of trials, it wasn't like ever that type of story that really like broke through in a huge way. Like not like in Freddie Gray's case, obviously, like, where everyone knew about it. But there was like a certain percentage of people who were like following every step along the way of the Freddie Gray trial or the Keith Davis trial. And every trial in itself had its own little microcosm of corruption involved with it. That was so between Brady violations and not turning over witness evidence to the defense and star witnesses who aren't star witnesses anymore because they recant their testimony. And just all kinds of shady shit from the SA's office, taking his original trial, pushing it back outside of the speedy trial provision, even though he was literally dying with a bullet in his neck. I mean, like,
there were several petitions to get him medical care, which the prosecutor's office fought.
Like you can't leave prison to go to the hospital. No, that's not how this works.
We're not going to do that. It's a complicated surgery, and we don't think it's worthwhile for him to have it. What if he dies before we get justice?
I don't know. And the worst part is that me and you were sort of talking about this outside, is because in this trial, in the fourth version of this trial, they can't talk about the things that happened in trials before. And they can't talk about how how originally the state's case was entirely different and different people were in play. But now that we know that none of these people are real or legitimate, reliable, none of them can be called as witnesses anymore. So we got this whole new defense of what happened. And this video evidence that just turned up out of nowhere that shows somebody who looks black. So probably Keith. Like who, like it's clearly a black guy not wearing the same outfit that Keith was, but I think people could change clothes.
Yeah, of course, right on the street.
Seems like a reasonable request of somebody. I mean, like, I don't know, like it seems it's upsetting to me that we could be watching the trial and see all the problems that happen along the way, but the people who are the jurists in the fourth trial have to focus on just the evidence that's given to them at the time. And in any post-conviction things that are going to happen here, it's going to be so much harder for him to just get a new trial or for this verdict to be thrown out or anything that'll come along the way, just because there has to be so much evidence to overturn a judge, even if the decision he made was wrong. And even though the 50 years that Keith got was probably more based off of a previous conviction, and because he got guilty of the gun charge in this, it automatically probably added years that he wouldn't have had otherwise. But
by the way, he like Adnan would probably be out of jail if he took the first deal on the first case.
Oh yeah,
but he beat the first case except for the gun charge. So then they're like, well, let's charge him with murder too. And
I kept thinking about that too. I don't remember at any point there being a plea deal that I heard about.
Oh, not for the murder. For the gun charge that came first,
okay.
They offered him 5 years, which most certainly has passed since then. And he said, no, I didn't do it. And
the murder came later, right?
Yeah, so he beat a trial where there was like 17 charges. The only thing they gave him was felon in possession of a gun. But then they didn't find that he used the gun in like
commission of a crime.
So he had the gun. They caught him with the gun because of the crime, but he didn't actually commit the crime.
But also officers involved in this case were also involved in TEF cases, and there's lots of evidence in the gun trace task force of officers planting guns on scenes. There was one that I was reading where Wayne Jenkins ran over a guy and basically realized there was no gun, and he was going to be in a lot of trouble because he just ran over some guy. So conveniently, a gun shows up.
Weird.
And it makes the whole thing seem like it was reasonable that he ran him down with this car,
And again, the woman who shot him in the face was ancillarily related to the gun trace task force. Where they found a gun that had no prints and was in a place where he logically could not have left it. So
I don't get it. And the fact that Marilyn Mosby's office like continues to like sort of like tap dance on any kind of she celebrates like every little victory in this Keith Davis case. Like she doesn't even realize that it's a 180 face from where she was when she was charging officers in the Freddie Gray case. You know, like she goes from the steps of the War Memorial Plaza saying like, we've heard your calls for no justice, no peace, and we're going to bring it to you. And then immediately just turns a blind eye to Keith Davis's thing. Almost like, I can't keep charging cops. Like, I'm already in enough shit right now. Nobody's talking about this Keith Davis thing, so I'm just going to stick with the cops on this one. And then all of a sudden, like, she's in this death pact with the Baltimore Police Department as all these chips are falling, and
she's stuck, though.
She's stuck, and she can't. What is she supposed to do at this point?
Yep.
So,
well, and
she's doing this thing where she's just like, oh, of course, I charged the cops in the Freddie Gray case. I didn't do anything after that.
Yeah.
I didn't bother poking any holes in their evidence or anything. But I definitely I definitely tried them.
Yeah, and listen, we need
or at least 3 of them. I don't.
We need the BPD. That's how we prosecute crime. So we have to do what we have to do. But here's the thing. I can't say for sure that even if he gets this overturned and gets a new trial, that yet another type of some sort of corruption pops up during the next trial, because it does seem like all 4 trials, something came out either after the trial or during it, which impacted the end result, it getting overturned twice and sent back down to the court. And this one has a very clear Brady violation that the judge just allowed them to continue and probably should have granted a mistrial. But I don't know. The good news is, before the end of the day where his sentence went through, the Maryland Court of Special Appeals ordered a stay on the sentencing because apparently they're going to chime in. They have something they want to say, which I think is likely either the evidence presented by one of the witnesses who's now been made part of the gun trace task force makes it an unreliable finding and we can't do it, or the fact that there was a Brady violation that was so extreme that it's now lasted, like 6 years over 4 trials, and you just pretending you didn't have this, that he should not be tried. I mean, the one thing they could do is to say, we overturn the verdict and find that jeopardy applies, so he cannot be tried again for that. Then he would just be in there on the gun charge, and whenever that's up, he'd be done.
I mean, I feel like the one thing that Keith's legal defense has going for him is that he's not trying to necessarily argue against the evidence against him, even though that works in his favor as well. It's more that anything that would be trying to appeal this after the fact is about the corruption of the SA's office and how by their actions he was never going to be able to get a fair trial. And the fact that he had to basically audition his defense 3 different times before they figured out the way that they could beat him is not a fair standard for trying somebody to begin with. I mean, like, if I get to see your defense 3 times and I get to see where you're going to try and poke holes in my side, and I get to counteract that with new evidence that I find out of nowhere and stuff like that's, it's all, that would set himself up very nicely, possibly, for the type of appeal that judges will make from time to time, where there was extenuating circumstances beyond the case that impacted your ability to receive justice.
I think tied with that, though, is the state presented 4 different theories of the case. Literally, it was different every single time, and that is in response to the evidence that was produced by the defense in the previous trial. So it's like, well, we can show that this is absolutely not true. All right, great. Well, when we try you again, we're not going to go with that. We're going to push the timeline and move it. And
I mean, on every single one of the, like the vote on the first trial was favored heavily on not guilty on pretty much all the counts. I think there was just the gun charge was the only one that they got held up on.
It was a compromise apparently in the jury room where they said, well, we have him not guilty on a bunch. Here's one that we're split and one we're split. We'll give you one, but you have to vote not guilty on the other one.
Yeah.
So they gave him the one that had 5 years or something like that. But
I mean, like even the gun charge that he's sitting with is kind of like that would be having that hanging over him is sort of impacted his ability to do the trial differently every time. Like the state could always go back to the fact that they had a conviction for the gun, even though they had nothing else, and try it again over and over again. But I worry that because there's a guilty verdict and because there's a sentence, that we're less likely to get it overturned. Just because that's usually how it goes with cases like this.
Fingers crossed. We'll find out in the next few weeks what the Court of Special Appeals has to say. But I imagine, one, it won't be the last story of corruption in the police department and the state's attorney's office. Probably won't be the last story of corruption in the mayor's office. Basically, Baltimore's for sale. So if Jeff Bezos, I mean, I know you just bought a house in L.A., but maybe just go there and you and Kevin Plank divide the city in half.
Do you want to own Baltimore?
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
It's like one of you guys can start the Sharks, the other one can start the Jets, and we'll just
oh man, I'd love to see a little millionaire gang off.
Eventually, that's going to come. We're in late stage capitalism as it is. So
Steyer and Bloomberg were almost at it the other day.
Well, yeah, don't jump ahead now. But anyway, so that is all the Baltimore news. So we're going to go ahead and leave behind the Baltimore Corner.
Where you get the straight dope.
And I guess, well, you know, I was going to say we should jump right into sports ball, but I think maybe we should let everybody know that the O The Anthem store is still available. I don't know if you guys have seen the Instagram post that we did about the brand new T-shirt. I don't think we've talked about that enough. Because for people who are in LA, or people who wish they were in LA, or people who visited LA, I think it's a very unique T-shirt idea that everybody should like.
Yeah, and I think that there's. I mean, for one, I've noticed a lot of traffic to the O The Anthem store, so I feel good about people finding it now, and we're constantly committed to making new T-shirt designs and trying to expand what we do here. It's just a matter of like sometimes you just gotta like sit it out and like hammer out all the details and like figure out what works and what we need to design and stuff like that. But
it's number 2 on the agenda. Number 1 is a 4-year consideration splash, which is coming very soon. And then after that, we got more T-shirts. And
assuming that the Mexican border doesn't get shut down by coronavirus, we'll be.
But yeah, so make sure you check out the new DTLA Dark. That's my favorite, DTLA Dark, on the O The Anthem store, which is, of course, available at otheanthem.com. And I'll tell you, I'm going to get one, and I'm going to wear it the next time that I have to make a transcontinental trip. And maybe I'll get a shout-out by somebody in in New York when I'm there.
When the Pugh trial verdict came out, I decided I had to wear my Baltimore Corner T-shirt.
Right, yeah.
And I was about to get on Angel's flight, and some guy was just like, "Oh my god, I need to take a picture of your T-shirt." I'm like,
"Yo, it's available. It's available for sale,
all
bro."
Means.
But
go to otheanthem.com if you want to get one yourself.
Yeah, look, get one for all your friends. They're available.
Well, it's just like my son lives in Baltimore. He's the founder of a jazz choir or something like that. I'm like, good.
Yeah,
fun.
Yeah. But I will be wearing that T-shirt the next time I go to New York. Of course, going to New York to visit Roxy. Hi, Roxy. Thank you for joining us so late on the East Coast. But Roxy's in New York now.
Yeah.
So sadly, we miss her. Corey misses Carly more, I would say.
No.
That's probably a high likelihood. So yeah, producer Carly also has moved on to other adventures.
It's 51 Roxanne, 49 Carly.
Oh, it's close. It's close. It's like the Senate. You just barely carried a majority.
Susan Collins in there. Just.
I don't know.
I mean, I like Carly, but Roxy's good too. I don't know where I'm going to go.
I'm just a little girl. I shouldn't be voting.
There's a mouse in the chamber.
But before we get too out of control, let's Yeah. So not a lot going on.
Yeah, not a whole lot of sports ball, but I think it's important that we touch on this because God knows this might be the last time we ever get a chance to have this sort of story going on. But
yeah.
Chris Davis looking hot so far to start out spring training.
Well, first of all, Corey, whatever your feelings are about the new muscles that he has and him walking around without a shirt, let's keep that to yourself. But he is playing very well, I would say. So
he has been hitting a couple home runs, going opposite field. Chris Davis, Photo Davis.
Don't type and talk at the same time.
Trying to type in Photo Day. Oh, it's just the old ones.
Yeah, it's not Photo Day yet. We're not close enough.
No. We had Photo Day.
Oh, do we?
Yeah, I don't
They're not
remember.
public, though, are they?
Yeah, they usually show them off.
Oh, I haven't.
Let's see.
That's previous pictures. I don't believe
Yeah.
anything you're saying.
I don't know if it's true. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
But Chris Davis, in a way that I never would have imagined this logic kind of working.
Mm-hmm.
But he was just like, I've made a decision. I'm not going to do any of the special video training that they have. I'm not going to do the swing analysis. I'm not going to do the, like trying to hit it at the right fly ball percent, the right angle or anything like that. All I'm going to worry about is getting as big and brawny as humanly possible, and everything will work out.
I'm just going to rip it.
The Orioles are like, all right, I guess. And then he went home and got fucking huge, and now he's coming into spring training and looking kind of like the old Chris Davis a little bit.
Yes, looking like $67 million worth of Chris Davis. Oh, no, it's higher this year, right? It's got to increase year over year.
No. It's not like $67 million a year.
I thought his contract was worth like 100 and some.
No, yeah, but I mean, like he's getting paid, like 17 or some million a year, and then there's a lot of Albert Bell money at the end, where he gets paid like $100,000 a year to.
Are we gonna end up with Chris Davis Day for the next 40 years?
Oh yes.
Oh, Christ. We'll pay you to retire. Let's just structure this
It'll
settlement
be the
out.
new Bobby Bonilla Day.
Yeah.
It'll be great fun.
By the way, we are getting close to the end of Bobby Bonilla Day.
No.
I think it's 2025 or 26, which is the last Bobby Bonilla Day.
So it will be Chris Davis Day after that.
Yeah, I suppose after that, we'll right at the end of his contract is when we'll be like, well, let's structure out this settlement. We'll give you $2 million a year for the
Chris Davis Day.
Yay. But luckily for us, we're at least getting some home runs for our money and made the difference now in 2 games in spring training, as much as credence as you want to give to that. We are not going to go to spring training, which is very upsetting to me.
Yeah, I would have liked to have.
We know someone in St. Pete.
Yeah.
You know.
Especially
because it's the best baseball they're going to play all year. They're not going to look this good during the season. Let's just be honest with each other here right now.
I want to see all the people that'll be on the Orioles the next time I make a consistent effort to go see them.
Yes, which will be 2 years from now. But they're not going to play better, and the weather's nice, and they're not going to win 50 games this year. At least I want to see them win in spring training.
Well, there's a chance they get all rained out too. I can tell you from experience that happens from time to time.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I was there for 5 days, and I saw 8 games, 2 of which got rained out. So I think it's really just about not getting distracted by other things available in Florida, like the beach or Disney went out for 5 days.
Or Universal or some nonsense like that.
You go for baseball, you go for baseball, okay?
I'm really looking forward to the season, though. I don't imagine the Orioles will at some point. I'm sure we'll do our for fun prediction of how far back the Orioles will be. But I don't think that. I honestly don't feel like this year's team is going to be. It's going to be bad, but it's not going to be bad in the same way that it had been the last 2 years. I think
at least a little bit of improvement.
You'll see some guys where you're just like, oh well, maybe in a couple years that guy's really gonna be something, you know? Because you'll get like the first year of like Mountcastle this year.
Yeah.
And I hear he hits really well and he looks like he's ready to take on major league hitting, but the defense isn't there yet. And we don't know what position he'll play necessarily. So it's like one of those like we get to bring him up and we get to admire the bat, but then also sort of do that game of like where are we gonna let this guy field?
Yeah, because the games don't matter. It's basically an entire season of spring training. But yeah, and again, at least we're not hanging our hopes on some unnamed person who we got in a trade with from Cleveland. And it's like, who are we talking about now? Oh yeah, we just got him. It's going to be great. This guy is going to turn this franchise around. We have Chris Davis, our franchise player, who gets paid like a franchise.
Well,
player,
I also feel like the difference from past Oriole years is like where you used to sign like Miguel Tejada or something like that. Where it was just like the rest of the team was garbage, but you signed Miguel Tejada and you're just like, listen, guys. Division's not that far away. We got Tejada now.
Yeah.
And he was a great player, but he wasn't enough to make up for the fact that 8 other people had to be on the field at the same time.
Yeah, you can only hit so many times. But yeah.
You're one of 9 people going through that order, so.
I don't know. Maybe if you put on a mustache, you can get him out there twice. Did he fool somebody?
Just put him up there in Jay Gibbons' jersey. It's like, wait a minute. He wasn't right-handed last time. No, I'm Jay Gibbons. I got a birth certificate and everything.
I was Jay Gibbons last time. Yes, this me. Yes. Anyway, is there anything else you want to talk about?
Nah, that's about it for the sports ball.
Oh wait, that's not sports ball.
That is certainly not sports.
There we go. Well, and we didn't really, and again, not having a for your consideration splash, I can't play that right now. But I'd say that there was really only one story I wanted to talk about. Coming out of Oscars, you get into that little bit of like post Super Bowl feeling where it's like everything was really intense and like let's calm down. We've only been to one movie in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Well, it is Dumpstuary.
It is, yes.
Not anymore. Now I can't come up with the thing for March, but March is just as bad as Dumpstuary. So we saw Sonic.
We did see Sonic, yeah.
I would like to see The Invisible Man.
Me too.
I've been hearing interesting things about that. And as a monster aficionado, I wouldn't mind seeing what they choose to do with that.
The one thing is, obviously, we have lived, many of our viewers may not have, but we lived through the Kevin Bacon Invisible Man movie, which I thought was campy but excellent in a campy way. And now they're doing what maybe we should have done all along, which is tell the story not from the perspective of the invisible person, but from the person who's terrorized by the invisible person. How do you make a horror movie where like you're looking at it from the perspective of the bad guy and just watching him lose his mind? So,
look at it. Hannibal Lecter is misunderstood.
I feel bad for him. That's 80s star Kevin Bacon.
We should just follow Hannibal Lecter around until we feel bad for him.
Yeah, and now even saying that, I'm like, it's got to be a much more interesting premise to be the one who is suspecting the Invisible Man, but like is terrorized.
I think part of the problem was that the Frankenstein came first.
Yeah,
and Frankenstein's monster is the type of story where you want to develop the connection with the monster, like. The whole reveal is that the townspeople were the monsters after all. That was the idea, and then every monster movie that came after it was sort of like, how do we get a little piece of that Frankenstein magic in this? And it's like, well, we have to have a connection to we have to make the audience feel for the Invisible Man, and it's just like, well, or he could just be a monster.
That was Elizabeth Shue. Was the girl in that movie?
I mean, like, I think there'd be something fun about Frankenstein where it's just like the whole thing plays out in the first 30 minutes of the movie, and it's just like the townspeople are just like, oh, we're the monsters after all, and then Frankenstein starts killing people.
Yeah, I like that.
I'd be like, oh.
You come around. It's just like a brawl in Cell Block 99. Like 30 minutes in, they feel regret, but Frankie, he don't feel no regret, and he just comes in, starts bashing skulls in. That'd be a good movie.
Good anti-hero Frankenstein.
Listen, Universal, I know that's a property that you're trying to reboot. I feel like we have the answer. All the monsters are, in fact, monsters. Mummy, not misunderstood. Cursed being wants to send everyone to hell.
Just monster.
We're going to make them monsters again. Make monsters again. Right here. Amazing. Come on, Universal. There's some. You got $1 billion for that, right?
Yeah.
It's a new franchise.
Do you have any quick thoughts on Sonic, by the way? Since we.
Comparing it to the previews that we saw of the original, I like the visuals better. But you made a comment coming out, which I can say I agree with, which is it feels like they literally just said, how little do we have to change in order to get this thing to be good?
Well, so I was listening to the director on The Business this weekend, and he was saying that they didn't do any reshoots for that movie.
Really?
So I've kind of shifted my opinion on what happened. I kind of feel like what they did instead was they just had one of those sets where it's just like, we're going to throw out a whole bunch of options.
Oh yeah.
Like it's like you were like on an Adam McKay set or something like that, like Anchorman.
Hey, everybody, do it that way. Do it the script.
We're gonna run 3 cameras. We're gonna do it like the script once, and then we're gonna have fun a bunch.
Yeah.
And then I'm just gonna throw out lines to you every once in a while. I don't know. Like the review for Sonic, which will be coming up soon, I basically said it's not good, it's not bad, but it's certainly it's like it sort of feels like Jell-O, I guess. Like it's not nutritious, it's not good for me, but it's sustenance.
It's something, yeah, sure, yeah. And in in a dumptuary, as you called it, just being able to have a little bit of nostalgia kind of like ups the value a little bit.
Yeah.
That the beginning where we see a live action Green Valley, like
Yeah,
I don't
Green
wanna
Hill
spoil it.
Zone.
Green Hill Zone, yeah. And I'm just like, oh, that's what it would look like. That's cute. Okay, now let's see. I get to the story. Oh, there isn't one really. All right, sure.
I also like on the review just imagined the first like 30 minutes of the movie where it was all happening in Sonic's world.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then they like watched an early cut and they're just like, so that 40 minutes that we stay in Green Hill Zone's got to fucking go.
Yep.
How quickly can you just meet the owl and leave? It's just like, well, nobody will know what the owl's about. And this is like,
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Nobody gives a shit about the fucking owl.
Was the owl in the game?
No,
don't
not that I
think so,
remember.
right? I don't know.
There was like the problem with these with any like I imagine I've thought about this personally. I imagine that like Legend of Zelda would make an awesome movie experience, much
Right.
in the same way that like
Which is coming,
Lord
by
of
the
the Rings is a great movie going experience
Yeah.
because and I know Roberto is gonna like jump in the comments and just be like,
Here
"You
we
don't
go."
watch it, you motherfucker."
Yeah.
But like I can tell you just from looking at it, like the fights and the number of people and everything like that. I could see a way you could make a Legend of Zelda movie interesting,
Mm-hmm.
given all that pretense. But there's no way to do it loyally to how the game worked because there's no way to make a version of the movie where you go to 4 different parts of the world.
Yeah.
And like the time it takes to actually win a game of Zelda.
I was gonna say,
It's like-
is it the Wind Waker where you spent hours just sailing across
Yeah,
the map? It's like,
I'm
I'm
just like,
gonna
oh
hold
yeah,
this down."
really great that this world is the size of Ohio, just sailing across the ocean for 3 hours.
Yeah,
But the the Sonic, there's not really any like way of doing like a real life version of it where like
so we discussed this at work. The point of the original game is that Dr. Robotnik is evil. Mm-hmm. He takes a Chaos Emerald that Sonic is given by someone he has at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
And Sonic realizes he's trying to reunite all the Chaos Emeralds, and when he does that, he becomes like all powerful. That's not a bad fucking movie premise for him just to go battling Dr. Robotnik.
I mean, like the more I thought about it, the only way I felt like they could have made this like different and new and sort of like inspired enough is maybe if you did like more of a Wreck-It Ralph
Yeah.
thing where it's just like what happens when the game's not on, or like maybe they figured out some sort of way to get out of the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like having everything sort of happen in real life sort of feels like I don't know, like the Transformers version of a
Yeah.
of a superhero or of a video game movie, you know?
Also, the rings are super important in the game. And they're
Yeah.
important in the movie too, but not in a way that makes logical sense to me.
But not in the same way either. It's
yeah,
like
yeah.
now you can throw a ring to transport to a different, like there used to be if you had 50 rings in your possession and you got to the end of the level and you go through the little turnstile,
Yeah.
there would be a big ring you could jump through to go to like a special level
Yeah.
and get a Chaos Emerald. But just sort of like having a bag of rings and throwing one and being able to transport wasn't like something,
Yeah.
like.
And then you came back though. Like you went to the special level, but then you came back and you continued the
And,
game.
I mean, like, and for anyone who's about to go watch Sonic, just know this: we're not ruining any of the plot because
No.
there's basically no plot. There's no. Sonic loses a ring. He has to go get it. He gets it. He's saved. Like that's pretty much the movie.
It's a buddy cop travel adventure. Lost item must be recovered movie. Like it's all of these things just mashed together into one pile, and then we just use Sonic, which has nostalgic value, and we call it a movie.
So, it's almost like a executive Paramount just walked in and be like, "What's the least amount of effort we can put into this?" It's just like, well, I guess he could just have to go get his ring and then he could escape. Done. Do it.
All right, write that up. Thanks, Jimmy. Anyway, but the whole point of me bringing up the for your consideration this week was that today, unfortunately, we also lost Robert Lipton. James Lipton. I literally was thinking that. James Lipton. And that might not be notable for most people, but we have on many occasions commented about being on Inside the Action Studio and having James Lipton. Although I think our version of him is far more like that Martin Short character than it is Jiminy Glick.
Jiminy Glick, yeah.
Than it is the real James Lipton. But
it's there would be times throughout my life where I was just like thinking about if I were to ever become famous and what kind of shows would I want to be on. You know, like I kept like thinking to myself like, oh, I'd probably be a Letterman guy over a Leno guy. Like not like, you know, I was going to be famous by the time I would have to choose between Leno and Letterman, but I mean like, you know, like when I was younger, I would watch Leno and Letterman and I'd probably be like, oh, I'd probably be on Dave's show more, you know, because Dave is more my kind of guy. And then there was like when Top Gear was still a thing with the original crew. I was just like, oh, being a star in a reasonably priced car would be like a huge goal. Like I would love to be able to do that. And then that goes. And then, you know, Inside the Actor's Studio was another one that like I was just always like, that would be really cool to be a part of.
And now we just want to trend on TikTok. So the world has changed so much.
Now here's the question. Do you think it comes back in some other way? Do you think they find a 40-year-old version of Lipton?
So they tried to do that
or
with...
just shoehorn Chris Hardwick in there.
They did Siskel and Ebert, and then when Siskel died first, I think, then they brought in the guy who actually replaced him at the newspaper.
Right.
And it lived for like half a season, and they were just like, they don't have the same dynamic.
Not
as Siskel
Phillips,
and
the other one.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
I can't remember his name.
Yeah.
But they could try, but one of the stories I was reading today said that like that was Lipton going to Bravo or whatever it was and being
I mean, this is part of what the Actor Studio was bringing people in to talk. Like, so it was kind of like this was happening before it was televised, and then it became a televised event.
Yeah, and I just don't think that you can replace.
And then once it was on television, you could get bigger names to be involved.
Yes,
it becomes part of the show as a hit. Yeah.
So, but I mean, I think it's a good idea. But Hardwick already does that. He has a podcast where it's just famous people coming in. So
what I always respected about Lipton was he took so seriously the process of acting that even when somebody who came in didn't have the same sort of respect for the process of acting, like, you know, because there's some actors who are way more I just sort of fly by the seat of my pants. I don't like do a lot of character I don't like create my character beforehand. I just sort of show up on set and it happens. But even when somebody who like flies by the seat of their pants would come into the Actor Studio, Lipton would still try and like get to the bottom of like, and why do you think you do that? And it's just like, well, I never really thought about it before, but I guess it's because my mom didn't love me. You know, and then you get that moment. Lipton's sitting there like, interesting.
Yeah, and I was going to say Bravo already has a show about addiction, so I don't know if Hardwick's the best one to fill that.
Oh,
but
that was like 10 years ago.
No, I'm saying like all the episodes of ID10T, it's no longer Notice, but ID10T end up being like, well, I've been sober for 4 years. Oh, that's great, man. That's great. Like, like what made you get sober? And I'm like, this is not.
There is a clear delineation, by the way, between Chris Hardwick's career pre Chloe Dykstra allegations and post. I can tell you that because just having the podcast subscribed and like seeing the level of guest that used to be on the show compared to and nothing against the Property Brothers or something like that, whoever's on the show now.
Yeah,
but like there definitely seems to be a difference between the type of get he was able to have before.
Again, Nerdist, when it was Nerdist, became one of those stops you wanted to make because it's like, I'm making a comic book movie or I'm making like a sci-fi movie. That's the audience. I want to get in there so I can get to those guys to have them come out to my movie. And now it is kind of like, so you guys got that new show on Bravo coming out. And I'm like, okay, yeah, this is fine.
How many times I look at a guest and I'm just like, who?
Yeah.
And then I click on it and it's just like, in charge of Houston's NASA command center. And I'm just like, oh.
I wonder if Neil. You think Neil's been on since all that? I don't think so.
No, I don't think so either.
I like to follow Neil, but Neil had his own problems, and his podcast was gone for a while. Now he's back again. Star Talk. Neil deGrasse Tyson. By the way, did I just call him Neil the entire conversation? Like, I know him.
Like you and Neil go way back.
Me and Neil, we know each other. We were both in the same astrophysics class. He finished second. No. Here I am.
We've been causing trouble with the women, me and Neil. With the lady folk.
But yeah, anyway, RIP to James Lipton. And there will be, by the way, you did a Jiminy Click version of Lipton when you just were talking about him. So what do you think you do? which is not Lipton. And I encourage people to go find episodes.
Well,
of
the
Inside
problem
Actors
the
Studio.
problem with Lipton is like I feel like so much of his intensity came from like a stillness,
Yeah.
and like it almost looked like a painting was talking to you sometimes because like he turned to you and you just have like these. He had his eyebrow game was completely there. It was just it's just like give you an eyebrow over the glass and you just be like, do you think your father appreciates what you do? It's just like holy shit, cutting deep.
Wait, what?
I wasn't prepared to talk about this.
We were just talking about my method. I got into a place, and now you're throwing me off, James. I can't.
I always like too when he would respectfully ask if like we could see an old character. Like he'd be like, "Is there any way we could see Ace Ventura for a few minutes?"
Yeah, I will say. So, by the way, some of my favorites.
And it's just Jim Carrey just going like, "All right, so how many lines from Ace Ventura can I just parrot back?" All righty.
Jim Carrey, Robin Williams. It's weird because it's like all of the character guys from the 80s and 90s. Those are my favorite episodes because he does that and he's just like, so what's the difference between this character and that character? And I'm thinking in my head like, he changed the voice a little bit and then got paid $20 million. But he's like, no. So the difference between these two characters is about how they see the world. And I'm like, what?
That
Good
I
for
mean,
you,
to
Jim
me,
Carrey.
I think the coolest thing about Inside the Actor Studio is that it demystified the process in a different way, because like, you know, if you would watch somebody on like a regular, catch somebody on ET talking about their latest role, like even if you were playing some, Katherine Johnston just died too, the NASA,
Hidden Figures.
yeah, the one based on Hidden Figures. So like, you know, if Taraji is going around doing a media tour and she's on Entertainment Tonight, they could say like, you know, like, why is it so important to play a character like this? And she could be like, well, you know, she's a role model that I feel like people don't know enough about. Maybe after this movie that her profile raises a little bit, but she's an incredible blah, 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 blah. And it's all about like, you know, the vague pluralities of who a person is. But when you would talk to Lipton, he was more interested in like sort of how you got there.
Yeah.
And there would be a lot more questions about like, so when you play Catherine, you did it looked like you tried to keep things a little bit tighter. And she's just like, yeah, so part of the preparation I did for the role was I was putting a ruler in my shirt to make sure I was like saying stiff, because she was a very like serious, like stiff, like she seemed like the type of person that if she wasn't like sitting perfectly up in her chair at all times. So I needed to like train myself with that. And that's like the type of thing that you would never get in the ET interview. They don't have time for that. Yeah. They don't care. But like with Lipton, he wanted to like get into all these little like little pieces that I always found fascinating.
And thinking about all the episodes of Inside the Actor Studio that I saw, one thing that all of the actors always brought up was preparation, and especially making sure that if they were about to be on camera, they would memorize all of the lines. So maybe, I don't know, someone we know should watch every episode of Inside the Actor Studio. And
I will say this, maybe the thing that was keeping all the back episodes off Netflix or something like that was Lipton didn't want them out there or something like that. And maybe the family will pull a Prince family and
like what paycheck? Yes.
Wait, we can make money by putting this on Netflix? Fuck yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's put all 27 seasons of Inside the Actor Studio on Netflix. I don't give a shit.
By the way, it was like an American show that ran on the British schedule where it was just like all of a sudden he'd be like, we have 6 episodes coming to you over the next 6 weeks, and then didn't hear from him for 18 months. Like
he'd disappear for a year and a half.
Yeah.
You completely forget about Lipton, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, Inside the Actor Studio's back, and this week it's going to be Tom Cruise. And you're just like, how are you getting Cruise out of it?
Because Cruise wants to be on Lipton's show.
He'd just disappear,
but
show up.
R.I.P. to James Lipton.
Yeah.
And yet another dream shattered for Corey and I. A show we won't be able to be on. But I don't, we're running a little long already. I want to make sure we get to our 2 main topics.
Yes.
Although the more I think about it, there is less to say, except for me to just look into the camera. Wait, let me get on.
I mean,
one shot.
A lot of these things tie together too.
Yes,
so
you're true.
like,
Right. But I want you all to listen to me carefully. We're all going to die. Okay. So I started scaring the kids at work by every time they bring something up, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, no, we're all gonna die," and they're just like, "Wait, do you really think we're gonna die?" And then I would go get the gas mask that I bought, and the next time I came upstairs, I would have the gas mask on and just be like, hey guys, how's it going? Like, what are you wearing? This is an N99 certified gas mask. So it keeps me safe from all of you. I'm gonna outlive you all. And you're in bars and going to raves, and you're gonna get corona.
I'm getting a little bit. So there's a two-sided thing to this. First of all, anytime any kind of virus breaks out in some sort of way, it's covered ad nauseum on every newscast across the world because it's one of those things that, like a hurricane, it'll get people to watch TV.
Yeah.
If you talk about coronavirus enough, then people will just continue to watch CNN and act like they're watching it literally, like, moving across the country.
It's like live murder porn.
And it's not because, the reason why they air it so much is not because the crisis is that much worse than it was last week. It's just that people will keep tuning in to watch it. Now, the other problem is, hold on.
Okay,
I know
go
you're
ahead.
going to make the argument that things are a lot worse than they were last week.
Yes.
But hold on. The other thing is that now it's gotten out there in the news enough that the right is now doing this. You're just saying that coronavirus is the worst thing ever because you want everyone to be scared and you want Trump's stock market to tank and like all sorts of stuff like that. And I'm just like, maybe we can be somewhere in the middle. Maybe we should be seriously considering our actions and how we quarantine people who might have the disease and keep it from spreading. And at the same time, let's not do 24 hours a day of we're all about to die.
Yeah. I would say
Maybe the happy medium is somewhere.
I'd say I agree with you, but the fact remains that we are all about to die. So predictably, because the CDC did predict this happening, it reached a point in the U.S. where the flaws of our medical system headed downward, and the number of infected people hit a magic point. And that point was, hey, the waitress who touches your food, she can't take a sick day because she has to go unpaid if she takes a sick day. So she comes into work, she's not feeling great, she coughs on your food, and then 10 days later we find out, oh, she had coronavirus and probably really felt like shit and should have stayed home, but she went to work every day until she went to the hospital. And now who knows how many people she's infected. There are now 100 confirmed cases across the U.S. It went from 7 to 100 in the course of a week. 6 of those people in Washington State died. 2 people in Florida died. 2 people in California have died. And they're looking now for infections in New York. And not to tie this in with...
Don't forget about all the people who died in China and Europe and Italy and stuff.
I was talking about important people, Americans. But yes, no, I think the death toll now is pushing 1,000, including all the people in the Wuhan province. And the kill rate is going up, if you will. Like, it seems like the virus is slightly mutating and doing better at being spread and doing better at killing people. And we don't have the facilities, the system set up to deal with this. People don't have insurance, so they don't go to the doctor until they go to the ER. They don't have sick days, so they don't take off work. And I mean, listen, all of my stuff now, starting in 2020, has like sick time and vacation time and like the whole 9, health insurance. But there was a time when people had like, I have 2 sick days a year. I got to decide, is this one of the days I'm going to feel the worst in the next 365 days?
Okay, so to me, the problem with like sick days and this part of logic is that I've also felt pressure to make sure that I don't take sick days that impact other people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to like take a sick day on the day payrolls due because I'm the one who does payroll. So if I take a sick day, then nobody gets paid tomorrow. Those were the things that would weigh on me. And I know weigh on other people. Like, I can't take a sick day on Tuesday.
Yeah, I like literally, it's like somebody was like, if you're not feeling well, you should go home. And I'm like, who is going to do what I do?
Yeah.
Which one of you wants to step up and take my job over for even a day? But I mean, other people luckily we are encouraging the staff to stay home, but I know we are reaching the point where some of them are already out of sick time from like a rollover plus whatever. And it's like, either we have to credit them and let them earn it back, or you just say either unpaid or come to work. And is it worse? for them to stay home unpaid, or maybe for us to pay for extra days, or to have them come to work. But it's the disease or the virus seems to be getting worse, and it doesn't seem to be stopping. And the CDC said, hey, here's the problem. The test we have, we're not sure is accurate. Turns out it's not very accurate. And people were misdiagnosed as not having it when they did. And the CDC also said we're going to reach this critical mass where the number of the impact of our medical system and the number of people is going to cross. And that seemed to happen this weekend. And now things are flying a bit out of control. Speaking of flying a bit out of control, I am going to be wearing my mask anytime I have to go in public, basically, for the next few weeks. And I have the gas mask that looks very scary. It looks like it comes from a radioactive suit.
Yeah.
But I also got like a nice little smooth scorpion or Sub-Zero mask. That's the one I'm going to start wearing.
You know what I think you should start going with is the guy from Mad Max. You should just start doing the...
Oh, like the whole...
Yeah,
the Bane, the modified Bane?
Yeah.
That's basically what my one at work looks like that I used to scare people. And somebody was like, yeah, that's really funny. You don't even have filters in it.
You could be the guy, like the little baby-like one who has like the
baby
and all the wives.
Yes, yeah.
Fury Road one.
Fury Road,
Yeah.
yes. But one of the guys at work was just like, man, you don't even have like filters in there. And then I did the filter test where you put your hands over it and it like sucks the mask in to show you if it's sealed. I'm like, I'm protecting myself from you. And then he was all fun and games until I did that. And he was like, yo, seriously, are you going to wear that mask all the time around here? Like, should we be worried? Should we all go home? And I'm like, you can go home if you want. It's unpaid, but feel free to go home. And then they went back to work. So I'm the best boss
Capitalism.
ever. Yeah, late stage capitalism. But the point of that was that Trump, in his budget for the last 2 years, has cut CDC and our part of our donation to the World Health Organization. And now we are not prepared for a pandemic. And it seems we're about to face a pandemic, which is ironic, if you think everyone dying is ironic. But we are now
The worst part. The worst part is not that Trump has been cutting the budget for CDC and we're all fucked and everything like that. It's just that he's just like, I'm gonna put Mike Pence in charge of this. The one guy who like it'd be like, hey, we got some really important science thing to do, so we're gonna put Corey in charge. And it's just like, no, that's not.
Right, speaking of science,
You know
Mike
who's going to be in
Pence-
charge of this rocket launch? Corey. It's like,
Speaking of rocket launches, Mike Pence, the guy who there was a big sign that said "Do not touch,"
Yeah.
and first thing he did when he walked up was put his hand on it,
Yeah.
and I was like, this guy. But luckily for us, we're all going to be safe, Corey, because as Mike Pence has pointed out, all we need to do is pray, and we'll be safe from Corona. It's the godless Chinese that brought this virus on us, and it's our God that can save us. So I'm feeling happy.
tell that to all the Europeans.
Well, that socialism is basically atheism, so it's all an ism. We don't practice that here.
That's diet God.
We practice ities. Christianity, not atheism. Socialism, atheism, they're basically the same. It's God's punishment on Europe and the rest of the world.
Oh, Lordy.
But also turns out we are in a race to try and replace that guy. And we've reached that point in the Democratic race where, the party starts eating its own. And then on the other hand, we start losing candidates who strangely back the guy that no one thought had a chance until South Carolina. So
What's amazing to me with Joe's huge win in South Carolina.
Oh, by the way, Joe Biden had a huge win in South Carolina.
Yeah, in case you missed that part, is that with that one victory, he's second there in the delegate count.
A lot of people in South Carolina, surprisingly.
Oh, I know,
Less
but
than
I'm saying
Iowa and
like,
New Hampshire.
But it's amazing how like Joe was effectively dead, and then one win brings him all the way back. Like I wouldn't have imagined such a delegate swing with the one victory.
Well, keep in mind though, all of these states have been like split delegates,
Yeah.
and the vote has been like 15% to 14% to 12%. And a big win means you get a lot of those chunks of
Right.
delegates.
Yeah,
so it doesn't have to be California to make an impact. You have to win by a lot. And nobody has won by a lot. He's the first one. And
Well, to
maybe-
win by a lot in a state that carries a lot of votes.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you could argue that Bernie won by a lot in Nevada and won by a lot in New Hampshire. but it wasn't. There was also a lot of people who were like cutting into his vote total.
Yes, yeah.
By having people in the campaign who wouldn't.
And I want to say we've lost a lot of candidates. One of the candidates we lost this week was Pete Buttigieg, who I said nearly 2 years ago would make an excellent president and is likely to run for president. And I believe Corey said something along the lines of, "Who?" And I said, "Keep your eye out because this guy's got something." And it turns out he had a lot of things. What he didn't have was any support in the black community, which is very important once you get to, the South. And
what I
urban
do
areas.
appreciate about Pete is that he was just like, you know what? We're done. Like he was doing well. He was placing he was getting podiums all across the race, and then he loses huge in South Carolina. And he's like, you know what? There's no way to the end. I'm gone. See ya.
Well, and I think part of it also was they were using South Carolina as a test. Like, are the national polls correct? Do I really have 0% in the African American vote? Oh, I do. Okay, I'm just going to go home then. Okay, cool. Maybe we'll figure that out in the next 4 years, and I'll be back. But I got to figure out how to make black people like me. So he's out. Amy Klobuchar.
Just walking around and be like, will you be my friend?
What? Like, I need a black friend.
I need one black friend.
Yes.
Because what I've learned hanging out with Joe Biden is that he says, my black friend, Barack. All he says. So I feel like I need one of them too.
Yeah. Yeah. But, Pete's out. Amy Klobuchar is also out. And the difficulty with that is you have two centrists who are essentially folding their votes in behind Joe Biden. And he also got a...
See, but I really wonder about that. Because to me, when I heard that Pete and Klobuchar and Steyer were all out, not that I was thinking about voting for any of them. I was thinking about Pete. But
you
I
were
wasn't
thinking about Steyer?
No.
Come on. It's a dark horse candidate.
But I mean, like, none of these people dropping out made me go like, well, I guess I got to vote for Biden. I think they all sort of said to me, Warren's more in play.
Yep.
Which I think is interesting because a lot of people are sort of at this point saying, why is Warren staying in the race when she's under the same sort of like, humongous deficit in delegates that Pete and Klobuchar would be dealing with.
It's Super Tuesday. Like, you guys didn't even make it to Super Tuesday where you could have won a lot of delegates.
I think Pete saw that there wasn't many wins out there for him, and Klobuchar just realized that she just didn't have enough support to continue. And then
they were running out of states without black people.
Well, and Steyer was putting a lot of money into South Carolina, and I think when he didn't win there, he was just like, all right, so clearly money is not going to buy this for me.
Yep. Michael Bloomberg didn't stop, though.
Well, I mean, he hasn't actually been on a ballot yet, so he's still waiting for his first chance to get a vote.
And by the way, I think he has spent something like $500 million already, and he has not been on a ballot.
Yeah.
He's going to make this the most expensive primary in history, and he hasn't been on a ballot yet.
Well, he kept making the logic when he got in the race, because he got in really late, was that he didn't feel like Biden could do it, and that there needed to be someone on the moderate side of the spectrum to do it. But in the time that it took for him to actually get on a ballot, Biden has corrected himself.
Yeah.
Now, I really don't know. The problem with politics is that somebody wins one state, and then all of a sudden the whole thing becomes about, like, get behind Biden, he's the one. But I really don't. I've been thinking a lot more about what's going to happen when we get a debate between Trump and whoever the Democrat may be, because I feel like they're going to limit the number of debates that they have. Because
if you're Trump, you don't want to debate.
I mean, you want to go out there and debate because people are going to want to see you debate.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think he could go with no debates.
No, but it's not going to be the Democratic primary where it's like 19 debates. No.
It'd probably be two. I would imagine.
I honestly think that you do 3, and what you want is to make 2 of those not a one-on-one debate. Town hall style, like let's all just get together. Because surprisingly, he's good colloquially. He did really well in that debate with Clinton, except for when he was like creepily standing behind her.
Right.
But otherwise, people think about him being like a creep over her shoulder, but he was really relatable in that debate. In a way that you don't think a guy who claims to have $1 billion but probably doesn't would be relatable.
Yeah.
He made her seem like the out-of-touch rich person
Yeah.
When he literally just 10 days earlier had been talking about, like, I could shoot a guy on Fifth Avenue and nobody would stop me. That's what rich people get.
The more I think about it, the more I am thinking about who I vote for in terms of who stands up on that stage with Trump.
Yeah.
And I think that Bernie can hold his own against Trump. I think that Bernie's big disadvantage is that the more he becomes a general election candidate, the more people are talking about socialism in terms of like, like the communism idea of socialism.
Wait, why did Clinton not do well in her election bid?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of reasons.
Well, what we keep talking about the main reason.
Well, I mean, she didn't. She fought to sort of maintain the heart of the Democratic Party, even though it was building. It was definitely on its own veering left.
People don't like her.
Yeah,
and the problem with Bernie is people don't like him for different reasons. But you can't go into South Texas. By the way, people who would benefit immensely from socialism in America, but they're going to vote against it because they don't like socialism.
See, but here's the problem. I don't think Biden can hold up against Trump at all.
No,
he's just not. He's just not the man. He's just not capable of doing it.
We're making it 5 decades where he's run for president.
Much like Bloomberg is not going to be able to take down Donald Trump in a debate.
No.
Like there's no world where I imagine that happens. And Bernie is going to get some good shots in, and I think Elizabeth Warren would be the best person to debate Trump, because she would just if she does anything like she did to Bloomberg in the Vegas debate, I feel like the Trump debate would be something to see, but I don't know. Like I'm really gonna take this vote until tomorrow. I'm really gonna be sitting on it until I actually pull the lever.
For those of you who
or press the button in this case.
I was gonna say it's button, right? It's not a lever, yeah.
Touch the touchscreen.
For those of you who said if Trump gets elected, I'm gonna move to Canada and or Europe, and then didn't, and you're still here now. Hypocrites. That's you. But also, this is what an election in Europe would look like. That's what we have in the Democratic primary. We have the extreme liberal on one side, we have the centrist on the other, and then that moderate, but not moderate in America, but moderate European-wise looking person. So we have Bernie, who is the Green Party extreme. We've got Biden, who is the like Tory party essentially in Europe, and then Elizabeth Warren is the middle road.
See, but the problem I feel like is that to sort of divide out candidates by political ideology is robbing you of your ability to see them as like sort of the whole and complete and complex candidate that each individual person is. Because like, Jill Stein, if you're looking in terms of like ideology.
I meant European green. Not
I know,
American
but I'm saying like if you're looking at in terms of like ideology, like, she's way to the left.
Yes.
And Bernie is way to the left.
Yes.
And Hillary was more towards the center.
Well,
and
Hillary is on the right.
Well, I mean, more towards the center in the sake that she might be going on the right side of the center, but she's in the center more than the other candidates. Yes. And then Trump, who was like way to really pushing right as much as he could.
Kept moving right as it was going along.
Right.
So, yeah.
Pushing what the right was.
Listen, there are good people on both sides, there are bad people on both sides. Did he just say there were good Nazis marching?
All right, well, I guess we got to move this into the section.
We thought the line was here, but the line keeps moving.
Keep moving it right.
All right, yeah.
I think that if you start thinking of like all your candidates as like if you lump in a Jill Stein with the Bernie Sanders and think that they're the same person, then you're gonna have a bad time.
Well, I mean, Jill Stein's not a Democrat. Oh wait, neither is Bernie. That's
right. But I'm saying like if you think that like the part of the problem is that if you think about a group of Democratic socialists who are going to run for Congress and Senate in the Bernie Sanders style going forward, there's going to be some people like Jill Stein who sort of get in there, and people are just like, look at this joke candidate who's running in Alabama's 3rd congressional district trying to be Jill Stein. Like, it's a matter of, like each candidate sort of has to stand on their own merits. And I think Bernie is doing a Democratic Socialist thing that nobody else would really be able to pull off. And it's arguable whether he's pulling it off, but
Yeah, I was gonna say
He's better at it than anyone else I've ever seen.
I would say I don't think he's being very successful at it, but he's better than anyone who has tried it before.
Right.
And realistically, he should be winning poor rural voters and poor urban voters, and he's not winning either of them.
I do like where he's going with his most recent version of the argument with democratic socialism, though. When somebody tries to bring it up to like slam him with it, he keeps going like, right now we have democratic socialism.
Yeah.
It's only for the rich. Like what I want to do is make it for the lower middle class as opposed to the rich. Because right now Amazon's not paying any sales tax. That's socialism for the rich.
Yeah.
And that's a reasonable argument. I don't know. I'm really going to weigh on my vote until tomorrow.
Yeah, listen.
But there's lots of things to vote on tomorrow, so it's tough to.
When are you gonna vote? Like 1 o'clock Pacific time?
Yeah, probably a lunchtime vote.
All right, so if you guys have a chance, and if you're hearing the sound of my voice now, I want you to bombard Corey with messages about who he should vote for. Just to bug him all day. I mean, really, basically.
Just get the Bernie bros on me. Just be like, I'm considering not voting for Bernie Sanders. And then I just wake up tomorrow with like a bunch of like, I will fucking kill you and your family.
So, and by the way, on that note, I'd made the mistake of getting into a political discussion with millennials at work. One of those things where I'm going to vote for Bernie, and if he doesn't get the nomination, I don't know that I'm going to go out and vote. Listen, idiots. Here is the argument that you're making to me. You're saying, I like this guy who is really far left. And if he doesn't win, I'm not going to go vote for the guy who is slightly less left than him. In a scenario where the alternative is a Nazi, essentially, like the guy who's so far right that makes apologies for Nazis and he's a white supremacist, and you're saying, well, I'm not going to go vote for the middling leftist when he's running against the guy on the far right because you guys didn't vote for my far left guy. You're idiots. If you're going to go vote, listen, if you're going to abstain. I abstain from all of it. And I'm hoping that if everyone abstained, we would get better candidates. I reminded them, 2004 was the lowest voting number of people casting votes in like 60 years. And it's never been great. And what do we get out of that? We got a revolutionary candidate in 2008 because we sent the message to the party like, we don't care. Give us somebody better to vote for. And this middling bullshit about like, we're gonna stay on and we're going to vote for, I'm not going to. No, if you're going to go out and vote, then I expect you, Democrats and leftists, to hold ranks just like the goddamn Republicans do. How many people in the last 4 years have held their nose and supported Trump? Do it.
There is the two candidates on the Democratic side I'm least likely to vote for are probably Biden and Bloomberg, right?
Yeah.
There's like maybe if we're just calling it round numbers, there's like a 1% chance that I vote for Bloomberg, and there's like a 5% chance I vote for Bernie or for Biden. And then somewhere else in that 96% is how I feel about Sanders and Warren. So, it's going to be a tough row to hoe for those two. But say that Biden wins the nomination and becomes the Democratic nominee, even if there's fishy nonsense at hand, I'm going to vote for Biden.
Yes.
I'm going to make it perfectly clear that I'm not happy with the Democratic Party.
Yeah.
And I will do whatever I can to torpedo their efforts after the general election has ended.
Yes.
But I will definitely 100% vote for Biden over Trump. If I have to vote for Bloomberg over Trump, I will once again do it. I will hold my nose even more than I did before. I will not be happy about it. I will not be happy about it. But I will fucking do it.
Bloomberg today, someone said, well, what about that third term that you were the mayor and all these things happened? And he said, oh, well, that third term's kind of a wash. I wasn't even paying attention. And that's the guy who you're giving 1% of your chance of vote, which I hope I just cut in half at least. Yeah, you're a mayor of the biggest city in the country and you weren't paying attention. That's why things went kind of screwy.
It's just a unbelievable, like, we need to not be so fucking petty. I mean, like, I get why nobody wanted to vote for Hillary Clinton. I get it. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to do it either. I did the math of she's absolutely 100% going to win Maryland, so I can throw my vote away a little bit here. Maybe Gary Johnson gets to 5%. I feel like I've done something. Mm-hmm. She won Maryland, so that didn't hurt. Gary Johnson didn't make it to 5%, but my vote didn't really impact how things ended up going. If I wanted to do the same sort of thing in this election where I vote for a third party because, whoever is going to win California,
you could.
I can do that.
Yep.
I can feel secure in it. But if you were a millennial in Rob's office who happens to live in Ohio and votes in Ohio, then do not fucking play this game with me.
Yeah.
Do not do this. Well, I don't know if Biden's really real enough for me, or I don't know if Bernie's enough of a liberal for me. Like, no, just do it, please. Don't.
Well, and all that.
The more people fucking sit across the line like this, the more Howard Schultz thinks it's a good idea to get involved and launch a third-party campaign.
I will remind you, though, that all of this hemming and hawing and all this, let's argue about leftists, it really doesn't matter because 55 to 60, maybe even higher percentage of the electorate lives in conservative areas. They identify as conservative. Trump lost the popular vote, but won the electoral vote. I think it's highly likely that he wins the popular vote this time and probably continues on to win the electoral vote. And the Senate's going to be redder than it's ever been before.
Last point on that, just because I don't think a lot of Democrats are thinking about it in this term as well. If you're making an argument over who can sort of match with Trump in a general election, I feel like your only vote at this point is for Bernie.
Yeah.
Because he's the only one who has an infrastructure and ability to raise money consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And if he wraps it up, say he has huge wins everywhere he needs to tomorrow or today, if you're listening to it on the day it was released, and why wouldn't you?
Of course so.
So, if Bernie wraps it up today, let's just say, he wins everywhere, he wraps it up, then he's putting himself in the best position to go up against Trump in the general because he has a war chest. But he has none of the Democrats, even if you put them all combined, even if you're talking about Bloomberg's $66 billion, they do not have the war chest that the Republicans have right now for Trump to get reelected.
Yep.
And that's not just legal money, but that's also super PAC money, shadow money, like Twitter trolls who are going to be talking about Republican talking points on random people's comments and stuff like that.
And not just Trump. The Senate election, which, again, I maintain, I think that it's going to get redder, not more purple or blue. The House, which is likely to get, far more blue, but we've noticed that doesn't really mean anything, unfortunately. So
I feel like purple districts are going to become blue districts.
Yeah.
And there's no longer going to be a lot of, decisions between is Colorado going to vote a Republican or a Democrat? It'll just because Colorado's Democratic now. There's no chance of it going back. But at the same time,
new swing state.
But at the same time, there's no swing states. That's your new problem.
Yeah. But I think that the issue is, and not, I don't want to dive into this. Although it would make a good if we have to record in advance. At what point are we going to say that the Senate no longer represents the people when 33 states? No, what was it? 15 states have 30. 30 states have as many voters in them as two large cities in two states.
Yeah.
So at what point are we going to say this was a great system when things were kind of equally distributed? Now it is so far off that it just doesn't make sense to continue with this Senate as it is.
And I mean, if you're talking so I'll make one real quick point on this, then wrap it up. But if you're talking Federalist paper style, where local government is where it's at and stuff like that, and you need to have two senators because every state needs to have the same sort of
Equal
ability to represent themselves in the same sort of I get your logic, but we're no longer in that world. It's not that doesn't play in today's society.
Yeah.
There's got to be interstate commerce like there wasn't before when the Senate was first created. So I feel like this House of Commons, House of Lords thing we got going on here is not necessarily leading us to the right way. But
the House of Lords, not done by population.
Yeah.
It's done by it's not done equally by population. It's done by all right, so we have, a bunch of people here. And so you're going to have this huge area because they don't have states in England. So you have this huge area and you over here, you represent the same number of people here. So it's equal by population, not necessarily by these lines we've drawn on a map that mean something that we now have 50 of and are split basically half and half. So the English arguably have a better system. Yeah. Also, by the way, proportional representation in the lower house, multiple seats in a district, and you can elect two, and they can be from different parties. There's also 19 parties. These are all things that the English are superior to us then.
I don't know if I want the 19 party thing.
Oh, I mean, they actually have 5.
I feel like
there's 5.
Oh, I know, but I'm saying like I feel like America definitely needs more political parties
Yes.
to like help even things out a little bit. But I do not want to go to the more crazy versions of certain
Greek.
European countries
Yeah.
where there's 97 political parties, and it's just like I'm a Tory, but I actually believe that we're not doing enough for income inequality, so I'm a Toryette or something. You know, like it changes like
cut off
one little problem that
Yeah.
you have with the party. You're just gonna separate and create your own party. Nonsense.
But by the way, I have my opinion goes the other way. I think we should have less parties. I think there should be one party, my party, and for everyone who's in the system now, guillotines for everybody. And then I think I continue.
Or
to
how
argue.
about this? We bring back this old chestnut. If somebody appears on television, like in an interview format, you don't tell us what party they belong to.
Hey, how about that?
You just put Bernie Sanders,
Yeah.
Senator of Vermont, on there, and then you listen to him, and then you decide whether or not you like him, and then later you can
And I mean,
you can like go online and just be like, wait a minute, this guy's a Democrat.
and I like that because I don't want people to think it's politically motivated. It's all of you are going to the guillotine, so it's fine equally, and you're the same. And then comes the Pax Roboticus. Anyway, where you give me, the benevolent dictatorship for 18 years, and I show you exactly what we are capable of doing when
Hold
we
on
all
a s-
come together and support me.
Do you hear that?
No, what's that?
OTheAnthem.com, Corey to OTheAnthem.com. O The Anthem on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the listener line, 443-219-7595.
What's that number again?
443-219-7595. You can find more of me at my website, CoreyBakerFilmmaker.com, Facebook.com/CoreyBakerFilm, and at LegendsCB5 on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. The Sonic review is coming. I was working on it, and then Premiere crashed, and I didn't have time to go back and do all the work I was doing before, so it'll be up soon, but want to go see another movie.
Yeah, I was going to say we're in the period now where it's a lot of crappy movies, but I got a lot of time, so
Maybe we can just catch like a weird Uncut Gems screening at like some weird,
I really do want to see
like on
Uncut
like a
Gems.
Tuesday or something.
I hate that we this Uncut Gems is what was the movie line? Ford versus Ferrari was that? We almost missed that. Even though we both wanted to see it. Uncut Gems, same thing. I'm like, why haven't
It
we
just
not
got
seen
lost in us trying to catch up on all the Best Picture nominees.
Also, I think that we did have tickets to it and we missed the
Yeah,
showing.
yeah.
That's right.
There was that one too.
Parking in Burbank is the worst. No one should live in Burbank. You should all just leave and leave me with the theater. I'll live right there at the mall. But of course, you can find more of me at Robert and Cheek on all your social networks. Make sure you check out robertandcheek.com where you can find links to everything that I do, including the books that are available on Amazon.
Barrels Books.
Due to a crazy moving situation, I didn't have a Sunday video, but going to be working to get Sonic out on Thursday. So make sure you check out youtube.com/Rob Cheek where you can see all the Everyman movie reviews. I'm actually, let me get your opinion real quick. Think about splitting that off onto its own channel. I get the most feedback from it, and I'm a little worried about me ranting about something political and losing a bunch of supporters on my channel. So it's something I'm considering. Let me know. What do you guys think? At Robert and Cheek everywhere.
Yeah.
Let me know what you think.
I'll think on it too.
Yeah. Because everything else is separate. All the social media is separate, except for the YouTube channel, because it's on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
But, well, we'll see.
Yeah.
But that's things that are coming up. So
All right.
a lot of time for thinking, a lot of time for doing a lot of stuff. So.
Well, I think we've done good here today.
We've done something. I don't know if it's good. But as always, you're listening to the O The Anthem podcast, part of the O The Anthem digital network. For Corey, this is Rob. Have a great week, everybody.
Oh, no. Rob, I think they're coming to get you.
Wait, what? Oh, yeah. Oh, wait. Who's coming to get me? What do you mean? Wait, what? Is that lights? Is that some sort of lights in the
It's about to
horizon?
happen.
What's that?
Oh, my God. They're coming to get you, Rob. Get out of here.